I took on a commission project that I would have to say would be the top 3 in terms of size and complexity for me. Normally for a project like this, I would do built-ins. However, I'm not set up to do a huge project on site. So I'm making 4 different units for this project. And each unit will have to be tied into the next unit to make them all look like they were built-ins. The main joinery I'm using for this project is Dados. And when they say there are a lot of Dados, there are a lot of Dados. Hey, it's Jim from the Woodworking Corner. If you like to build things and have a small shop like me, then consider subscribing to the channel. Now let's go check out the build. With having 4 units to build for this project, I'm thinking it's going to require at least 6 sheets of plywood. And with a helping hand, it makes the unloading process easier. And while we're unloading, we get a little interruption from our new neighbor from across the street.
Is it a lot of job? Is it a lot of work?
Yes.
Is it yourself?
Yes. Now it is time to set up the table saw. Luckily the weather is nice enough to break down the sheets outside. And after setting up my dust collection system, I'm ready to rip the plywood down to a more manageable size. If you've never done this before or don't have a second person with you, I would advise ripping them on the ground with a circular saw instead. The sheets are easy to handle now that they are ripped down to 24 inches and I can rip them to their final width. One of the best parts about this build is that most of the wood is, in fact, not most, pretty much every single piece of wood has the same width of dimension. 11¼ inches is what I ripped down the plywood to. And then when I put the face frame on it, which is 3/4 inch, it'll come out to 12. And that was the dimensions that the customer was requesting, was to have a 12-inch shelf. So right now I have my cut list here. Let's see if we can get this on camera. There we go. So on my cut list, I'm working on the first 2 units right now. So this is pretty much all my notes for that. So I'm going to be cutting 6 pieces of here, 7 pieces of that. These are all the middle dividers. I need 26 of them in total. I'm going to do those last. I'm going to use them from the scraps. And then I need a couple of pieces for the bottom. For this is the second unit, and this is second and as well as a third. So I'm going to cut all these now, and then I will make my marks for the dados and cut all the dados. Once the dados are done, then I can start staining that part of it. So let's get down and rip some more wood. I made all my cuts that were on the cut sheet that I have so far. This is the wood that's going to represent the first 2 units. I have parts A, B, C are the dividers. They're going to be upright like this. In total, I need 26 of these, but I just used whatever leftovers I had from there, the offcuts from that, to make these for now. I still got to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Got 10 here, so I still need 16 more. Parts D, E, F, and G. Since the parts are starting to get a little, some of them like parts like D and E are pretty close in size. Wanted to make sure I labeled them so I didn't get them confused. All right, so my next step is I am going to lay out the lines for where my dados are going to be. I kind of got a little winded when I was planning out the spacing for the dados. I go over the steps on how to evenly space them out. If you are interested in seeing the math, then please do continue. If not, there are chapters in the video, so if you want to skip ahead, feel free to do so. I guess technically I wouldn't know if you did or not, so feel free to do. So I'm using this as an example. I could start it from the top, I could start it from the bottom, but I could start it from the bottom. I'm just gonna throw this up here for now. So pretend like that's the top of the shelf. So I'll leave that there. Hopefully the wind doesn't blow it over. My bottom line is gonna start at 3½ inches. So I'm starting 3½ inches from the bottom. A little windy today. Okay, I'm gonna use this offcut so those things don't blow around. So here's the thickness of my material. I'm marking this down. So I'm putting 3½ inches from the bottom because I know there's going to be base molding at the bottom. So the bottom of the shelf is going to be here. So here, base molding. At the top, I'm going to put a dado at the top too. Let's get rid of this since this isn't working. So I know there's going to be a dado up here. So I'm going to mark out that line right now. Okay. If I take the measurement between this line here, the inside line, and the inside line at the top here, that measurement is 71 1/8 inches. Okay. There's going to be 5 shelves. So evenly space out the shelves. I need to know, 1, how many shelves are going to be, and 2, the thickness of those shelves. So the thickness of this plywood is 23 and 32nds, right? We know it's not 3/4 of an inch. But if you take this and you multiply it by 5, because there's going to be 5 shelves, it's roughly 3.6 inches. So I'm going to keep it in decimals because it makes it easier for me to subtract and all that kind of stuff when it comes to the next calculation. The overall length was 71 1/8, or 71.125, right? If I subtract the 3.6 inches from that, I get roughly 67.53 inches. It's the space between here and there minus the material, okay? The material, the 5 shelves, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 shelves. If I had more of these, I could lay them out. I should have done that. So to find out the difference, or to find out the spacing between each shelf, is I take the distance from here to here, the 71 1/8, or 71.125, subtract the thickness of all 5 shelves, which is 3.6 inches. After I do that subtraction, again, I get the 67 1/2. I get the 67 1/2, and I'm going to divide that by the number of sections I'm going to have in between. So if there's a shelf there, a shelf here, a shelf here, a shelf there, right? There's really 6 spaces. There's this space, there's this space, there's this space, space, and space. So there's 6 spaces with the 5 shelves. I hope we're all following that. With those 6 spaces, we have to divide the 6 by the 67.6 inches. When we do that, we get pretty much right on 11 1/4, 11.25 inches. So 11.25 inches or 11 1/4. So if I was to make a mark every 11 1/4 inches, so here to here, there's my 11 1/4. So here's my speed square. So I make a mark. Here's the thickness of my material. If I use this to make a new mark, right, go up another 11 1/4 inches, and this last spacing, 11 1/4. Here's the setup on how I did the dados. Because of the length of the router bit I was using, I needed to use 2 pieces of plywood from my guide. Then I would sandwich a piece of scrap material in the middle so that I would get the right tight fit for my shelves. And as you can see, there were a lot of dados in this build. Every unit side had 6 dados in them. And then there were the shelves that had dividers in them. And some of those shelves needed a dado on both sides of the shelf. And when you're doing dados on both sides of the material, you have to make sure you don't go too deep into the material. Halfway through doing all the dados, I had to order a new bit. The old bit kind of got burnt out. Another pattern bit. Check out this one. I think it's spent. So I just went out and bought this one. So hopefully this one, a little bit more money. So hopefully it'll last longer. It's got the blades that go up and down. So that should make for a cleaner cut than the straight bit one. The sizes are different, so I'm gonna have to do my setup a little differently again. But let's see how well this one works. I ended up doing dados 4 different ways, each time trying to improve on how I was doing the dados. If you have any suggestions for making dados a better way, please share them with me in the comment section. I'm ready to start doing some dry assembly right now. Here are my side pieces that will be for all 4 of the units. 2 of the units are going to have shorter side pieces. Here's all the parts that make up units 1 and 2. So right now we're going to put together a couple of the shelves with, this is parts B, and then part C over there. We're going to dry fit them, and then we'll move on from there. When I do finish assembling these, they're going to be glued together. The shelves will be glued in there. I'm going to put screw holes in them and screw through the back. Out of all 4 units, only 2 sides will actually be exposed to people to be actually to see. And what my plan was to do is once I get those together, I'm going to use some either 1/4 inch or 1/8 ply and put a face on the outside of those. So this way, when it's all assembled, you won't see any screw holes in the last 2 shelves that will be actually exposed to people. I have all the parts ready to assemble the second unit right now. The 2 bottom shelves do not have a divider, so they have no dado in them. The top 4 shelves do have a divider, so some of them have a divider on both sides, some of them don't. First unit's all done, sitting outside. The little rain right now, but it's at least covered right now. So I'm getting ready to work on the second unit. These pieces over here represent all the long pieces for the other 3 units. Units 2 and 3 are going to have 2 long pieces and then 2 short pieces. They have a cooling unit inside their wine cellar that's going to be in that corner. All the shelves for the 3rd and 4th unit I still have to cut. I got wood outside ready for that. But I wanted to get building now. I wanted to do some building now, get the staining building and done for a couple of the units just to make sure everything's working the way it's supposed to work. I'm not going to be able to build this one on there, so I'm going to use this mat over here to build the second shelf, but the second unit. But before I do that, I still have to do the dados for the uprights as well. Yeah, just the uprights. The uprights for that one, and then the uprights for that one. These dados are already done, ready to go, so these don't have to get done. But let me work on those, and then we can start putting that one together. Now that all the units are built, I can take them apart, sand them, stain them, finish them, and then get them ready for delivery. So I think this is the crucial step in terms of this build, in regards to building it out first and then taking it apart and finishing it, versus doing all the finishing and stuff and then having to work the parts together. One other thing I'm going to do is, like, even though I labeled the shelves, I'm going to make sure I label all the parts, so this way I know that everything goes together, which ones go together once I get it over on site at the customer's house. So I'm going to start taking it apart, and we're going to do the finishing process.